Welcome back, everyone, to R2Kast number 60. Feels like only yesterday number 50 came out. But here we are, another 10 in the bank. In the bag, in the bag, not in the bank. Today, we have another really good guest, as everyone is, as I keep saying. But it's, however, quite unfair of my guest to have said yes when I asked him to come on. And he doesn't know that I'm saying this, and he doesn't know why I'm saying this. He'll probably be quite confused. But I am Scottish, as we know, and funnily enough, just before we kicked off, I Googled quickly the hardest words for Scottish people to say, and one of them is this gentleman's name. So, Karl, would you like to say hello?
Hello. I used to have a member of staff who I used to work with who hated having to phone me in the kitchen because she could not say my name and she was from Scotland. So, well done for saying it.
Well, it's. I think we just instantly go to Carol. Because we can't, I can't get rid of that. The other word is another word for a robber beginning with B. We just say burglar. I can't get the word burglar without going like that. So it's a bit of a nightmare in that sense. Before we get on into another excellent episode of the R2Kast, I would just like to thank the sponsor for the show today, the Scottish Farmer. A weekly magazine highlighting everything you need to know regarding the Scottish agricultural industry, whether it's breaking news, events happening in the sector, market reports, classified ads, or just wholesome stories happening in the industry. The Scottish Farmer's got it for you. If you don't know who Karl is by name, you probably know who he is on Instagram as the Pretend Farmer, which is quite interesting given a lot of people that follow me probably think I am one of those as well. However, Karl is not. He's quite the opposite, very much farming on the ground and showing everyone his sort of journey into industry. So I'm really looking forward to this chat in itself. Could you tell us a bit about yourself, Karl, maybe what your background is? Were you from farming, or was farming something you were always interested in? Give us a wee bit of that sort of thing.
All right, yeah. So I'm not from farming background whatsoever, other than my grandparents got a small holding. I'm a chef by trade. So I left school at 16, started in the hospitality industry and worked myself up to head chef role at the age of 23. Nice, successful, well-paid job. And then I quit all of that. One day I woke up, I was like, enough's enough. I want to do something better. I want a white walled room with no windows. So I started a gardening business and started farming alongside that. I'd done it for about 2-3 years before that. I used to buy store lambs, fatten them, sell them again. And then when I quit my job, I took some grazing on that couldn't be made into hay. So I bought some ewes, and the rest is history, as they say.
And what age are you, if you don't mind me asking, at the minute?
Say again?
What age are you at the minute?
So I am 27 at the minute.
27. So that's been in that 4-year period. So it's not been long. It's, I love when people do this. I write like a couple of things down before I kick off a podcast, and you've pretty much went through them all. So we'll jump back in and look through them all. First off, chef. What drew you to that when you were younger?
So I, again, like most people, had no idea what we wanted to do at school. Not really any guidance. I think when I did that whole put in answer 20 questions on a website, it told me I should have been a pest controller. So really had no idea what I wanted to do. But they had a competition halfway through school to produce like a 2-course menu, 3-course menu that was sustainable, local, and all of that stuff, which I've always been interested in. I've always liked food. So I entered that, won my age group and the whole of the competition. So got a day at Le Manoir, so Raymond Blanc's restaurant that's about an hour away from me. So it sort of just stemmed from there. I did a day in the kitchen and just was amazed by that. So I knew I at that point wanted to chef and be chefing. So yeah.
As someone who has been a cook, well, I don't know what the definition of a chef is. I've certainly never been trained, but I was a cook for a couple of years. I mean, the actual chefing world has always interested me because it just seems intense in a kitchen. And that place you're talking about, is that Michelin starred, or is it?
So Le Manoir is 1, if not 2, Michelin star restaurant, yeah, and hotel.
So what was that experience like? It must have been quite something.
Oh, incredible, yeah. So we was like a cookery school. So they spent the day like teaching us to cook basically, but then also you got to look around their actual kitchens, and you've got like areas for just making like a whole room that was a fridge for them to do all their sweets in. Like they also grew everything on site. Like most of the vegetables literally next door, and just walked them straight in. Like it was just, everything was so fresh and like prepared on site. It was just amazing place. So, and that's what I've always wanted to do if I ever got a restaurant.
So like proper fast paced as well. It's such a stressful environment, I think.
And there was like this restaurant, there were so many chefs as well, like vast quantity of chefs. But yeah.
Aye, so how it works in that, you've got someone that does this thing, someone that does this thing. Is that how that works? They've all got sort of their set. Yeah.
So literally they'll like, an order will come in and they'll be like, right, bam, bam, bam. All you do is just make sauces. So you literally make sauce for every single different dish. There'll be the head chef or sous chef on the pass, so like the front bit, and then people will just appear with different bits of food, and then he plates it or she plates it up and serves it straight out.
Excellent. And I mean, this is a food and farming podcast, so I'm going to spend a wee bit of time quizzing you on the chef side as well. You started at 16, is that right? Just straight out of school? Yeah. And did you leave school at 16?
Yeah, they were ready for me to go.
I like that, they were ready.
Yeah. So we left. I left at 16 and went and got an apprenticeship because I knew I didn't want to. I wanted to be a vet originally, and then when I realised I had to go to university and like be fairly bright, that wasn't going to happen. So I then took chefing on, went to college one day a week, and then chef the rest of the time.
I feel like you're very hard on yourself. So you started at 16, and by 23, or maybe before that, you were a head chef. What was the process involved in that sort of movement?
So very fortunate. So I had my first job I did for 2 years. So I did 1 year of apprenticeship, and then they wouldn't give me a second year of apprenticeship. So I just worked for a year for them. Why they didn't, I don't know, because you get paid by the government to do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I did 2 years there, and then I thankfully got headhunted by, at that point, probably one of the best restaurants in my local town. They were 2 rosettes, really sort of well thought after restaurants. So I got headhunted to go in as a commis chef or senior commis chef. So once I'd done like a year, so they gave me my second year of apprenticeship, did that, and then I worked from them pretty much my whole entire rest of my chefing career. So I just worked up when somebody left or I became more qualified, just worked up the ranks. I then left at junior sous level, I think it was. Yeah, I left at junior sous level because this was sort of when I was wanting to go into farming potentially. And another restaurant locally offered me sort of, which I thought was going to be better hours and all of that. And it turned out that I was doing less hours in a day, but more days. So I really wasn't actually gaining anything. I was just being consumed all the time. So in the time of me leaving, I'd only been gone 6 weeks. My previous restaurant offered me sous chef job and a lot more money to go back. So I was like, okay, good job I left them, wasn't it? So went back to them as sous chef, worked for the Christmas, and then we had a head chef, but I basically did the head chef role underneath the head chef being there because he was useless. And I'd obviously he'd only been there like 6 months. I'd worked for the company previously for about 4 years. So I knew the insides out of the whole kitchen and how everything worked just because I'd been there so long. A new company bought them out, changed the whole business, head chef left. And they basically, the new CEO, they couldn't find a new head chef to replace me or to replace the old one. So they said, the CEO was like, well, why can't we give it to the sous chef? And my general manager was like, well, he's 22, 23. And the CEO was like, why can't you give him the head chef role? How long has he been there? And they're like, 4 years. So they were like, well, he knows the company better than anybody else right now. If I was you, I'd probably give it to him before he leaves as well. So they gave me head chef. So I only sort of, if I'd gone back into the catering world now, I probably wouldn't get a head chef role because I've not done it long enough. But because I worked for the company for 5 years and just the way that we lost staff and everything like that, it just thought that I knew the place better than anybody else. So I did it for 6 months. I said I'd give it a shot for 6 months, but worst 6 months of my life.
Hardest, worst 6 months of your life because you knew you wanted to get into something else, or hardest, worst 6 months of your life because of the job?
Because of the job. I didn't know I wanted to do anything else at that point. I still wanted a restaurant. I still wanted to cater, but just no social life. And when they say no social life, I mean no social life. Yeah. And well, I ended up losing relationship, losing friends, and just the days you were not there, you were either going in to check that the orders were being done and the prep was being done, you were sat at home and you just weren't switching off. It was just all I was thinking about was there. It's just horrendous. So
yeah,
I knew. Well, I got up one morning. I was like, I've got to get out. Like, this needs to stop now. So
yeah, no, I mean it sounds pretty.
Yeah.
So a few questions, quite a few words I've heard, but not to know what they mean. Commis, sous, and I mean head obviously makes sense, but what are commis and sous chefing?
So commis chef is like bottom of the pile, basically. So it's just, well, they're French terminologies. I wouldn't know exactly, but commis chef is basically your trainee chef. So they'll do your basic veg prep and all of that, and then build their way up. Sous chef is second in command. So when the head chef's not there or in the office, sous chef's the second one to answer to. So normally in a like a big restaurant, your sous chef would be the one that's basically running the kitchen, and your head chef would be in your office. But then if you have an executive chef, your head chef, like they all move one up. If you see it, or move one down. So your sous chef is basically head chef when he's on a day off. You take over, and normally people will come and speak to the sous chef over the head chef, just because obviously head chef's normally trying to run everything. You'd go to the sous chef and then they'd either resolve it or speak to the head chef. So yeah, second in command of the kitchen, basically.
And you mentioned rosettes. I assume that's some kind of quality branding like Michelin stars, but slightly different. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's AA rosette. So basically it's sort of what most places can get their hands on. Michelin stars are obviously only for few and far between. And rosettes are sort of more good quality food, but you're not going to get like 3 peas in a piece of carrot, basically.
Right, good. Yeah.
You're going to get a good meal, but they're still better quality than just going to a local pub, if you know what I mean.
And it's funny, Michelin and AA, both Michelin stars came about in French travel, didn't it? When people would basically be hiring a car, and then they would be like, well, where are you going to go to? And you would go to restaurants that had a star. That's how it originally came about.
Yeah, so originally started from the Michelin tire company. So it's still owned by the Michelin tires. They still run it. And it's basically just a guide to restaurants on routes around France. Yeah, that's all it started from, and it's just grown and grown. So the AA rosettes is no different. It's AA is in the breakdown cover is the exact same. Yeah, they're just saying basically you've got like you're a decent place to eat. Basically, that's all it is. But it's obviously just a much bigger thing than that now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just wondering, if there's going to be like an RAC medal and a green flag coupon,
Yeah.
It's such a weird crossover. It's because for so many years, I was literally about 6 months ago, I googled this because for so many years I just assumed Michelin was a French person that was a chef, Yeah. But it's actually tires, which is quite funny. So you went from chefing, and then that sort of 6 months was tricky, shall we say, and looking for something different, and then you looked at sort of starting a gardening company, did you say?
So my parents own one already.
Okay.
And the plan was to take some of their work so they could take it slightly easier. It's not work like that. We're both all as busy as each other, but that was the plan. Well, I didn't plan to do it the whole time anyway. It was just sort of like an interlude till I found out what I wanted to do. That interlude has just happened to be now 4 years long.
So I did a bit of Googling on you. It's not just gardening, it's gardening and catering, is that right?
So originally, when I don't run the catering side anymore. Originally, right. COVID has basically finished that off. So originally it was, I put as many names on my company as I could. So it just covered whatever I wanted to do. And at that point, I was still doing some freelance chefing. I was doing some weddings and some sort of like local catering things. I had two big weddings booked during COVID, which obviously got cancelled. And then I just picked up more and more gardening. So I just didn't have the time to take on any more weddings. So rather than paying somebody to rebrand my company, it just sits at the bottom.
So you were setting up the limited company, and it's like you've reached the max characters for the title. Like, how many more things can I fit?
Yeah, just keep adding them on, and I can just keep doing what I like.
If you were ever, which I assume you won't be, it's quite a big change. But if you were ever on like the stock exchange or something, I'd just be going round the New York Tower forever.
Yeah.
So is that like, lawn mowing and trimming, or is it landscape gardening, or is it both?
Yeah, so more the first one, mowing, trimming. So basically, I have the same clients pretty much week in, week out, and I just look after mostly the older clientele. So we just basically go in and just look after their garden. Basically, they know 9 times out of 10 what they want or what they normally do. They just physically can't do it anymore. So that's what I do. Just go around and then become like friends. I'll get to know them, know the families. It's really nice. So.
Do you know, I did that for someone for about 6 weeks before I got my local job. My local job, my current job. I did it in my local area for about 6 weeks. It is one of my favourite jobs. Just working in the garden, being behind a lawnmower is the most enjoyable experience. Put podcasting.
I come up with most of my business ideas behind a mower. It's brilliant.
Brilliant. There's no focus when you're trimming. You're focusing, but when you're mowing, you're just
trundling along. Yeah,
loved it. Great game. Well, good on you. So yes, you then found a way into farming. You had no connection to it apart from sort of grandparentage, but for the most part, that I assume that wasn't even there when you jumped into it. Or are they still farming? Or
they've taken it back. They do it themselves now. But that's where I started. I had 12 lambs on there, and then 20 and 30. But then all the ewes have never been there. I've got my own grazing for that. So I grazed theirs for 2 years, 3 years, and then they took it back, and I built from there on my own. So
I love stories like this. I think R2Kast number 31 or 29 is a guy called Ross Pattinson, and he, like yourself, I think had a great grandparent that had some land, like really nothing, and he bought 4 pet. Well, no, he didn't. He took 4 pet lambs. Well, he was given them. He didn't steal them. Put them in the garden, reared them, sold them store. Yeah, and then the next year he did 20, and I love. So your story's similar. That's why I'm so excited to do this. So you started with 12 store lambs. Did you then rear them and then sell them yourself, or did you just sell them at the market?
Yeah. So I've always done hay. So I've always made hay off the field, and I like making money. So I was like, well, he says that as he's gone into sheep, so it's poor life choice. But I was like, there must be another way to take money off of this grass. So then bought 12 stores in October, ran them through until April, and then had them back in a box and sold them to friends and family, basically. Could have sold twice over the amount I had. So I bought 20 the following year, 30 the following year, and did it till I did 40 or 50 last year. 40 last year, and I've just done 50 of my own lambs for the first time ever this year.
So it was funny. You say you like to make money. Most of us do. But the as you get into sheep farming, but you're doing it the clever way, especially from a small perspective, selling that sort of added value, selling it as the product, not selling it to the market, cutting out the middle 15 people, and sort of doing that yourself. So there is money in that. I'm quite certain.
Yeah.
So and is that still the plan to still do the selling everything? At the farm gate, if you will?
I would like to. Realistically, I don't think they'll all go through the farm gate this year. There's just short of 100 lambs in the field. So I'd like to get 60 gone. The bonus to being still involved in the chefing world, I've got friends that own restaurants and pubs. So I'm hoping to, like last year, I did sell 12 to one restaurant. So I'm hoping I can have a more regular thing with him, that he'll take 3 every fortnight or every 3 weeks. I'm hoping that I can get a few like this. There's a couple of other restaurants that have had my lamb last year. So hopefully I can potentially start a thing with them to have it more regularly, which would be ideal because then I can use more that way. So I'd like to get to the point where I'm selling everything. But this year I am expecting to probably sell some in the autumn.
Well, it's actually a really good model, that, though, because the things, the bits that people struggle to sell are the expensive cuts, but that's what your restaurants are going to take, yeah. So you're gonna find a market for your chops and such like, but
well, I'll sell I won't break a lamb down. So if the restaurant has it, they're going to have the whole cut, the whole carcass, because I've got no facility to hold anything. So if it comes, it's got to be delivered straight to them. So it comes back in a box. I won't sell. I'll probably do 2 or 3 lambs a year, a maximum, that I'll sell individual joints. It either goes quarter, half, or whole a lamb. Yeah. Or a full unbroken down carcass goes straight to restaurants, and then they can cut it how they want it.
Oh, right, okay. Is that I didn't know that was a thing restaurants did.
Wow, not many restaurants.
Yeah.
Your better quality sort of still, like, without being rude to all restaurants, but some restaurants that, like, one of them is a really good friend of mine. He's a fantastic chef, and he wants to take the time to teach his, like, next generation of chefs, like, how to break down a whole lamb, rather than just ringing a butcher and going, I need 10 legs and 3 chops and this, and they just appear with it. He takes the whole lamb and goes, right, this is what you do with all these different cuts. This is how you can break it down, and actually teaching them, rather than, like, everybody becoming lazy and just convenience of going into a supermarket or picking up the phone to a butcher's. So
that's amazing.
But also, they also like the story. They can sell it. They can charge a bit more, and they can sell the story that these lambs are literally grazing the village up from where we're buying it from. We know the whole story. They can use pictures from my social media on their social media, and we can work between us and advertise as both of us. So
they can make more money out of it, but deservedly so. When you're
exactly,
for sure. It's sustainable. It's almost regenerative from an employment perspective, in that those future people you're talking about are they might not wait there forever, but they might then go to their place when they become a head chef or whatever, and they'll try. I love that. That's really good. So where are we farming wise now? Then you're no longer putting store lambs on your grandparents. What are you doing now?
So now running, which terrifies me, 92 ewes that going into this topping season. So I've lambed down twice. I lambed down 42 2 years ago. This year I lambed down 73, and I'm lambing down 92 this year.
It's basically 150% every time. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So this will be
fair play.
So we're now up to two separate flocks. So I run a commercial ewes, which produce my fat lambs, and then I've got a flock of full Romneys, which breed my replacement ewes now. I saw the price of ewes and was like, I'm never buying them again. I'll breed my own, thanks. Run 2 flocks now.
What breed are the commercials?
So commercials are a licorice all sorts. So they're either Bautexes, Charolais crosses, Texel crosses, anything that's got a good back end to it will go in my commercials, basically.
They'll be grand.
But I'll slowly breed them out, and I will end up as a full Romney flock. And then the Romneys in the second flock, the commercial flock, will still get crossed with like a Texel or something like that. So the lambs have still got a better conformation than just a straight Romney is the plan.
Why Romney?
I wanted to go Easy Care or Ex Lana, which is those self-shedding things. Mm-hmm. But because I rent, and because like the price of wool, and I was like, if I'm starting off breeding my own, I've got to be sustainable. I've got to look where the trends are going, all of this. Then I realized I rent all my grazing, and they make a hell of a lot of mess on fencing and trees. And I was like, I can't have people ringing me and me losing grazing because the sheep are making a mess in all the fields. So then I went polar opposite and bought things that are really fluffy.
Are they not one of the few breeds that you're not making money on wool, but you're maybe paying for the shearers?
Yeah, they are better, but I shear twice a year, so yes and no. But they are fantastic ewes. They like do well on nothing, which is great at the minute. They just trick out a lamb and it loves it before it's even sort of come out. Literally this year I had one that was lambing it and cleaning it as it was coming out.
All right.
Yeah, she just literally lambs it, and she's already turned around and she's not even really finished. So they're brilliant, really milky, and they just get on with it. I really, really like the Romneys, so that's why I didn't really like. There's so many farmers around here. A really good friend of mine runs like 600-800 of them. So I'm like,
Right.
if you get on well with them, and it works for your system, it's going to work for my small system. So he had some shearlings. So he was like, look, just buy some of these if you want. You'll always get a lamb out of them, even if you don't like them. If you don't like them, you can sell them again and buy a different breed. You've just got to trial and error until you find the sheep that run in your system. So I found that at the minute, touch wood, the Romneys are doing well. The ewes are keeping condition, so we'll stick with them for now.
Well, do you know, I hear a lot of folk that are really up on them. A good mate of mine really likes Romneys. He's the shepherd at the place I work. Are they normally twins or singles?
They should be. Some people will say they're too prolific and they'll send like twins and triplets. And
yeah.
So I'm interested to see this year. Mine will be, well, like a full ewe, not a shearling, going into tupping. So I'm interested to see. It's going to be a hard year to tell because obviously we've had the best grass. So I'm hoping I might have something to flush on them. I might not even have anything to flush ewes onto at the minute. So they might not be as bad, but they were a higher percentage. They were like 178% compared to the rock, whereas my commercials were like 130%. They were rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like
they are.
Sorry, you just jumped away there. What was that?
Oh. They were a hell of a lot better percentage. They were like 170%, whereas the commercials were naff, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I think you know Will Rubottom, Cowley Hill Farm. I think you know him.
Yes, yeah.
Like he's obviously got cleans, and a lot of people advise against flushing them. They're that prolific. Maybe Romneys aren't quite at that, but still high.
Yeah, I think so. But because I've got the commercials who don't do as well, like last year, I was trying to adopt on.
Yeah, for sure.
I still lamb indoors, so if I can, I'll pull a triplet. Like I had a triplet this year, I'll pull one off and adopt it onto a commercial. So I'm more than happy for them to be more prolific. As long as I don't end up with any pet lambs, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're in the situation that you're going to have the odd pet lamb that is going to find a mother, that's fine. Maybe not. The odd pet lamb at the end as well isn't the end of the world, is it? But
no, I don't do pet lambs.
None at all.
Okay. None. No. Second year running, never had a pet lamb, and I'm going to keep it that way. I did pet lamb rearing for somebody once. I did 50 pet lambs, and it's put me off for life.
Yeah, no, I can't even really comment because my mum really does it, and she's got one of those heat waves. There's no point in me even telling you. You don't know what this is. You don't do pet lambs.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
the ones where it's like self-feeding.
Yeah, I mean, like you've stuck with a shepherdess before. That makes it sound like you're stuck with a real shepherdess. I mean, the shepherdess brand, which was good, but it wasn't a heat wave. But and interesting choices. And as you mentioned, especially at the minute when they can do well on nothing. I am currently in Dumfries. It is the 10th of August and it is unbearably hot today at 23 degrees. What is it you're experiencing at the minute, Karl?
30 degrees today, and that's cool. It's going to get hotter by the weekend.
and I follow a lot of you guys. Where exactly are you? You're Oxfordshire, is that right?
So Oxfordshire, if you've seen Clarkson's farm, I'm about half an hour away from him.
All right, okay. Have you been to see him? Well, not him, but Diddley Squat.
Well, I drove past Diddley Farm Squat before it was cool. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I've got some customers that direction, so I've been past that plenty of times. Yeah.
be a prize customer there, but yeah. I hope you've kicked your feet up and got comfy and enjoying another fantastic episode of the R2Kast with another really interesting guest. I would just like to quickly take another second to plug the sponsors of the show today, the Scottish Farmer, and I would strongly advise you to go out and pick one up this week and see even more of the fantastic people that are in our industry. I follow a lot of you guys down south of England anyway, and it just looks hard at the minute. You're begging for rain. You're having to maybe not irrigate. You don't have crops, but you're having to bring water to the stock. Do you think an end's in sight, or what do you think?
There's rumours that we're meant to be getting a bit of rain on Monday, but not that we're going to have a bit more than just a day. Like, I've never seen like lawns, for example, peeling away from patios.
Jeez.
Like, you've got a good 2-3 inches away where it's just dried up and moving, like the lawn is moving away from the patios. Like, that's dry. Like, I drove around the U's last night because I'm not checking them till the evening now rather than doing the morning, because they follow the truck. So I go out when it's sort of getting dusk because it keeps them in the shade during the day. And just driving around is just like tinder. It's just wait. Well, we had the fire at the other end of the village at the beginning of the week, a field fire. The bottom of the garden, the neighbour's house, the garden set on fire 2 days ago. Like, I think yesterday the fire crew in our area got called out 15 times to fires in a day, because literally it's field after field after field just going up, combines going up, everything it's genuinely terrifying at the minute.
I've seen a lot of combines, actually. I've seen 3 or 4 photos in the last few days, and I'm pretty sure they're all UK. Yeah. Not good. I assume you're in a slightly fortunate position given you're producing hay, or is all that hay sold?
Well, it's in the barn. It's made and done. We made it in June. I did make some a couple of weeks ago, which was pretty shocking. It's standing hay. It was so dry I didn't actually have to ted it out. I literally just mowed it, left it, and baled it like 4 days later, because there was nothing green left in it. But the little stuff for the equine is barned, and I imagine there's going to be hopefully some good sales this winter because there won't be the grass. Yeah,
no, the reason I said that, I just didn't know if you'd be using some of it yourself, or you still got some grass lying around.
There's still some grass. I was only saying to someone this afternoon, lambs are looking like they are going to be grazed put onto it soon. But really reluctant too. I'm hoping that we'll get a bit of rain just to green up some of the hay fields and get them on that lush grass, because they're just not going to fatten on hay. So they're going to go backwards more than they're going to go forwards. So sort of holding out. They're on thankfully the field was topped in sort of good time. So it's greened up a little bit, but there's not a lot out there where they are. It's sort of the days are getting shorter till they've got to be moved. So hoping this bit of rain on Monday is going to help, but I'm not hopeful.
Yeah, well, hopefully it bashes it down for a day or two, because it's not easy. That, I mean, for sure. I mean, at home, we had mum and dad put an IBC out for the cattle, but I mean, it's the odd day it's required each year. Getting to stage you guys. Well, when was the last notable rain you had?
The last noticeable rain was when I went to 3 Counties show, which was second week of June.
Was it June? I thought it was July. Jesus.
No, it was 3. So that was before the Royal Highland show.
So we're 2 months in. We're over 2 months. You haven't had. Shit, that's not easy. Yeah. Not easy. And what area have you got? How much area have you got, Karl?
Roughly around 300 acres.
Right. Okay.
But that's like all different. Like some of that's only winter grazing, some of that's just summer grazing. Depends on I've got 100 acres which I can only graze in the winter because they're an Arab farm. The grassland they take a hay cut from, so I can only graze it from once there's grass basically back on the ground, and I've got to be off sort of by April. Yeah. Some of it I've got all year round. I can do what I like with it.
And I mean, land is, again, I've said a couple of times, a lot of people listen that sort of maybe are in that stage that they want to get into farming, and as difficult as we all know it is, and they like to hear from folk like yourself. So the difficult thing is land. How did you go about getting that?
See, I'm going to contradict you.
Okay.
I have never struggled to get hold of grazing, thankfully. Right. I've always struggled to get hold of barns and lambing places, and storing kit has been my hardest thing to get hold of. I guess I've just been fortunate. I've been in the right place at the right time to get grazing, and I've found talking to people, talking to farmers, and normally if they've got a bit of grazing is more of a hassle for them than it's worth. It's still a hassle for me, but it's grazing, so I'll take it. And talking to people, but getting a lambing shed for this year, thankfully we did find one big enough to take them, but storing like my trailer is just in having to be in the corner of someone's shed. Tractor's in another one. They're not particularly dry or the best storage, but it's finding just places to put kit is like something you don't realize when you have a farm and you're just running a flock. You could put the flock somewhere normally, but it's all the rest of the kit that comes with them. It's finding stuff like that to put them, or like even for me filling up an IBC tank, finding water that you can buy off of somebody is easier said than done. And there's only so many times you can pull in that favor. If you've got a week that's wet or dry, you're fine. You can ask for it. But we're 2 months in. It's getting bits like that you don't realize that are the hard bits. It's the infrastructure more so than the grazing I've struggled with.
So you're not going to have a hose running out the kitchen tap. It's not going to be.
Not when you're trying to fill like 2 IBC tanks for the back of the trailer. Not really.
No, that's interesting actually, because I mean, everyone I've had on, Abby and Andy, A&A Livestock, Rachel and Jake, Evans, our farming journey, who else? Ross. The thing was always that building up the ground, but I'd never considered the whole sort of infrastructure as well, because like lambing sheds, I assume that's insanely difficult because I assume most of them are just being used.
Yeah, so I was really fortunate. Somewhere I do all their lawns for them. They're a retired farm, so they've got a 60-acre farm that they've retired, and there's a lambing shed on site. But I obviously don't know them very well, so I sort of approached the idea, and before I even finished the question, they were like, "Yeah, of course you can." So I was really fortunate that they were on board. But yeah, I had a mate of mine let me borrow literally the corner of his shed the year before, and I could only have it once he'd sold all the hay, and I had to be out before haymaking again. So I really had like a short window to lamb in. But I'd outgrown that in a year. There was no way I could fit 70 odd sheep in it. It was tight for 40 the year before. There's no way I could get 70 in there this year. So fortunate enough, I have that one, and I'm hoping I'll have it again next year. But it's that, and like upping your hay production. Like originally I was selling it straight off the field, but now I'm making, well, last year I made like 1,500 bales. Well, that's a big barn.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've struggled with. And like I said, where do you stick a livestock trailer? Where do you stick tractor and all of that? So
yeah, it's one of the difficulties of quick growth, isn't it? In whatever, in anything, in any company, in any whatever. But yeah, that was lucky with the gardening client. Came off well. Yeah, and is that 60 acres? Do you farm that as well or no?
No, so it's arable at the minute, and they've got like 4 fields of grassland, but the local college have them, and I never want to like step on people's toes. So for as long as the college need them, they have them. I just take the barn, and that's all I have. So that's how it's left at the minute. But the gentleman's just taken the farm back in, so he's just taken it back on the farm himself. It was contracted out, and he's now doing it himself. So I don't think I'll take it anytime soon. But
right.
My foot's in the door, and I have the lambing shed. So
yeah, definitely. And what is the local college near you, just out of interest?
So it's only a small one. It's Abingdon and Whitney College. Right. So they just have like a farming, like agricultural, literally in the same village as I grew up in. It's just up the road. But yeah,
very good. You are definitely not just a farmer. Well, you're everything. Actually, you're a lot of things. But you're definitely not just everything we've covered today. You also do a lot of sort of promotional stuff, promotional sort of ambassadorships of different things. And one thing that I saw you were doing, I think it was it the 4th of August? I think it was the day after a local show. You did Farm 24. Could you tell us a bit about what Farm 24 is? I've been tagged in it 2 years in a row, and I've not been on the farm the time that it's happened, so I've never been able to do it. But what is Farm 24 and why is it happening?
So Farm 24 is basically 24 hours. The hashtag is #Farm24. So we ask it's run by the Farmers Guardian and Morrison's, and they basically just get as many farmers or anybody, not just farmers, anybody in the agricultural sector, whatever they are, to show what they do for 24 hours or what they do within those 24 hours. So obviously we're not up 24 hours, but whether you're a dairy farmer getting up first thing, or whether you're a sheep farmer like me who likes to start at like 9, it's whatever you're up to through the day. And just it's all like, for me, it's no different to my normal day because I show what I get up to every single day, social media, but it's getting those other people that don't normally share what they do, even if they share one picture or one video. And it's just basically trying to flood social media with all the amazing work that British farmers do to put the food on our plates. And it's just making a day of it, getting media involved and radio involved, and just pushing it as much as we can.
And it is great, like you say, like, yeah, I see you all the time, or I see Will all the time, or whatever, but it's nice to see everyone else. Like, we're a very small percentage that are posting all the time. Yeah, it's nice to see what everyone's doing. Morrison's Farmers Market. Yeah, it's a brilliant thing. I think it's a good movement. I think it's something we have to get behind, and hopefully next year I'll manage to actually be involved. You also do quite a bit with Yellow Wellies. For those of you like, what's Yellow Wellies? Is he a fisherman? Yellow Wellies is a farm safety foundation, and for those of you interested, I think, is it number 20? No, it must have been number 18. I think the podcast I had Stephanie Berkeley on, who's like the head of the whole thing. So if you want to go and hear a bit about it, go and check that out. But could you tell us what your involvement with the Yellow Wellies has been?
So yeah, I'm again another ambassador for that. So sort of do promotion bits as and when bits are coming up. Talk about as much social media. Oh, sorry. As much promotional bits as I can. And then I'm sort of like a face that if they need a radio interview or a TV interview, there's basically enough of us based up and down the country that we should all have someone covered in the area that are prepared to talk on media about yellow wellies and the importance of farm safety and mental health within farming and all of that, basically.
So do you do much? Are you on the radio, TV, that sort of thing often with it, or?
Not so much with them, but radio in general, probably once a month with my local radio. And then I've in the past done quite a lot with Radio 2 as well.
Yeah, well, I was aware of this, and that's why I asked about TV and radio. What's this? What's the stuff with Radio 2? Tell us about it.
So, Tupping, not this just gone, the previous Tupping. So my first ever Tupping going in, they had a thing on a Monday morning. What was your like Monday manifesto? What you wanted to get done for the day?
Okay.
So I was on the way to work. So I just text in saying it's Tupping week. My ram Rambo is going in, meeting his ladies for the first time. I thought they won't do anything about it. It's not really breakfast show appropriate, and they won't do it. Next thing I know, a producer's on the phone saying, "We love your story. Do you want to be on with Zoe Ball in 5 minutes' time?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Of course I will." So they're like, "Okay, we'll pull over." So did a radio interview with Zoe and basically said, "It's Tupping week. The Rambo's going in. Yada yada yada." They said, "Well, we'll catch up with you on Friday if that's all right." I said, "Yeah, of course it will." A friend of mine, I can't remember who it was. Somebody's like, "Look, send Zoe a message. Send her a picture of Rambo." I was like, "She won't see it. Like, okay, I'll do it anyway." So I sent her a picture on Instagram. She replied, starting following me. She still follows me now, may I add. And yeah, shared a picture of Rambo and was like, "This is Karl. Like, this is his ram." So on. So I went back on the Friday and said that he went in yesterday, already served X amount, sort of working hard. And they're like, "Great, well, can you keep us updated?" So I sent them a clip or a bit of update at scanning, and then when the ewes came in, and then we did a live interview halfway through lambing that year and updated them. I think we did a bit of shearing, and then I had a new ram this year, Tupping just gone. So we got the listeners to name him. So he's Rocky. So he got named by the Radio 2 listeners back in this November. But sadly, they've changed the producer now, who has gone down a different line. So they're more interested in promoting celebrities and all that side. So I've not been on with Zoe since last November, sadly. But we will be back on there one day.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think there's a potential to find something else with Zoe Ball?
Well, I try. She shares some of my content every so often. Like she shared one of my hashtag Farm24s. So they all still really, when I spoke to him the other week, he said, "We still want you and you come up in conversation quite often." So we were trying to get them to come they were going to come to Lambing and do a live show from Lambing, from the Lambing shed.
Yes.
But then the producers changed like a month or so before that. So I feel there's still the potential there. And I will just keep plugging it away and just keep, well, they've said just keep them updated. If they can do something, they will. If not, they like the update for The Office anyway. Keep
reminding her.
Yeah. And she replies to my story every so often, and I'll reply to hers. So there's still like a connection there. So hopefully maybe one day we'll do something.
That's so cool. And I did actually, for those listening and watching, I did just do a wee fact check. She is still following Karl.
Good.
That's the sort of thing, like you said, that she is still. I would check every day to make sure she wouldn't be getting rid of me. That's really cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, I hope that happens, because I missed it at the time, and now I want to hear that sort of thing. I want to hear you on the radio every week. You're also involved with NFU a bit, is that right, Karl? Through Young Farmers, is that right?
Yes, yeah. So I was there, one of their NFU Student Young Farmer Ambassadors. So they set the program up, I don't know, 3 years ago. So basically they take, I think it's between 12 and 15 young people who are involved in farming or at university, based in up and down the country. So we did it we were fortunate enough to do it for like 18 months because of COVID. Right. So basically you're sort of, as some of my friends like to put it, I was a poster boy for the NFU. So again, we're the younger generation, the face of the NFU, talk to our local MPs, TV work, radio work, article writing, and I've just carried on with them. So if there's a local news report or something they need, they'll just ring me. If I can do it, I will. I did an article with them a couple of weeks ago for an American company, American newspaper. So yeah, I really like the NFU and the work they do. So I just promote and work with them as and when now. I'm not tied to them. Whereas like when I was an ambassador, I had to sort of do as much as they asked. Whereas now I'm not. I just take on the work if and when I want to, basically.
I assume the NFU is quite good to work alongside. Would that be fair?
Yeah, they're brilliant, and they'll like keep you not in line, but up to date with like policies and where the government's sitting with farming, and they'll sort of like I don't have to have the same opinion as the NFU anymore, but it's quite good to know where their stance is on things and on deals and policy, and I can say, okay, I'm along with them, and I can learn a lot off the back of them. And there's so many people within the NFU that are very valuable, knowledgeable, and I've been to some amazing places with the NFU. Like I wouldn't have got to the Lord Mayor's show last year in London, and places like that. I wouldn't have been able to do that without the NFU. So no, I'm really thankful for them and where I've got.
Yeah, definitely. And just for folk listening, you said, opportunities like getting to that show there. What opportunities did it give to you, apart from obviously meeting these fantastic folk and meeting other like-minded folk as well?
I think the biggest one for me is because I've come from not a farming background, like getting my name in NFU magazines and all of that. Like people locally have been like, okay, if the NFU are backing this guy, he's clearly taking farming seriously now. And I think people have like gone, okay, I've gained more grazing off it. For me, it's promoted me as a person locally and nationally. Like people have gone, okay, who's this guy? Like, where's he come from? I know farmers previously in my area have been really supportive, but also been like, is he just thinking of this as like a little hobby on the side? And then I think when they've seen articles written about me in the Farmers Guardian, Farmers Weekly, or the NFU magazines, they've gone, okay, yeah, this is a bit more serious now. So it's definitely helped me and got me in places.
And I mean, it's a networking industry, isn't it? So the more your name's out there, the better. Were you there with Rebecca Wilson or not?
No, so she's this year's.
Yeah.
So they're this year's. I was the previous year.
Yeah. Well, it's an NFU is something I've always been very much fond of. My family, it's NFUS up here, but my family's always been union folk, and I think some folks say they're rubbish and whatever, but I really don't think that's the case. I think they're out fighting the battles that we need to be fought, and it's Minette Batters down with you guys. We've got Martin Kennedy up here, the president, and Yeah, I think they work wonders for the industry. Yes, they'll do something wrong, or let's not even say wrong, different to what you think is right.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they're a thing we need in policy. I'm not up in politics massively, but I think they're out for the right
Yeah, I
things.
think so. Yeah, they've like for us, they've got an offices literally next door to House of Parliament. They can put pressure on all the time. They're always speaking to government. If we didn't have that, who's going to do it for us otherwise? Like that's how I look at it. Is we need a voice. We as farmers on our own are not loud enough. We need somebody with a bit more welly, no pun intended, to push it for us.
That's a really good movement. If we need someone with welly, that could literally be an NFU like thing.
That should be. We're going to claim this if it comes out.
Yeah, no, exactly. R2Kast number 60, Karl. This is all it's going to be, and you're going to be claiming all of the royalties for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were at the Highlands a couple months ago. What did you think?
Oh, amazing. We
Really?
did a lot. We did the Royal Cornwall, 3 counties, and the Royal Highland in like 2.5 weeks. But Highland Show was amazing. I'm really glad I listened to my Instagram and did 2 days. We could have done a third fairly easily, but no, it was good to do 2 days. It's just vast, amazing.
How does it compare to the other 3 counties in Royal Cornwall?
Good, bigger, much bigger.
Right. Yeah.
3 counties. Sadly, it was a really wet day, so we spent most of the day just running from like marquee to marquee. 3 counties, I wouldn't say as big. There's not the livestock side as much as the other 2. Royal Cornwall was good. There was a lot of livestock, but nowhere near on the scale. Like the big cattle sheds at the Royal Highland Show is just huge. So same with the sheep sheds as well. Yeah.
I mean the livestock shed, the cattle shed and the livestock marquees. Cattle sheds and sheep marquees are the size of some shows.
Yeah,
it's major. I love it. Absolutely love going to the Highland Show. Did you spend any evenings at the Highland Show?
No, we didn't. We had an Airbnb, so we went back. We were fairly knackered by the time we'd walked around all day long. So no, we didn't. I think it was fairly, but also we didn't really know anybody, so it wasn't really like it was just the 2 of us going up to. So no, we didn't stay the nights.
Well, next year, if you're back up, I don't know your partner's name, sorry, but you and your partner.
Lottie.
What was that?
Lottie.
Well, you and Lottie, very much welcome to come to the dance. Not, of course, that I ever go to the dance.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I was actually at the Highland for 6 days this year.
Wow.
So I was there for about 3 o'clock in the afternoon the day before, and then I was there from 6 in the morning on the Monday until about 1 in the afternoon. I really went to town on it. It's good fun. Good to be back. Yeah, we'll definitely next time try and meet up. And do you go to Yorkshire? You ever been to Yorkshire?
No. So I think our plan for next year potentially is the Welsh and Yorkshire.
Yeah.
We're gonna rotate them round because there's so many that we want to try and get to. You could end up not working most of the summer and just going to shows. So I think we've limited ourselves. We've done 3 this year. I did do the NSA sheep show as well the other day. So I feel like we've done enough, and then we'll catch up with a few more next year again. So
you should try Scotch sheep. Which won't be till what year are we on at the minute? 2024. It'll be 2020. That's every 2 years. But if you look up Scotch sheep over Finlarg, was where it was this year. Massive. The day was delightful. They say it's the biggest sheep show in the world, but Europe, sorry. But I don't know how true that. But it's through NSA. It's through NSA, but it's like our Scottish.
So it's probably the equivalent to our one that we've just had at the 3 counties, then.
But Scotland's better.
Yeah. I'm not getting into that argument tonight.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, we don't need to get into that. That would cause a massive battle that we do not need.
I tried doing that on the Farmers Guardian Live the other week. I called out that Oxfordshire was the best county, and then it just erupted.
Well, I've got a good mate. You might follow him. Farm Vet Films. Kaz.
I think I know who you mean.
Yeah, Kaz. Is his name. Yeah, well, Kaz is from London, but he's a vet in Northumberland. Well, he's in New Zealand at the minute, but he's been vetting in Northumberland ever since he started. And Cameron Wilson, the Sheep Game, and I used to do like a podcast together every week. And Kaz was on it one day, and he basically said, small animal vets are rubbish, and if you're vetting outside Northumberland, it doesn't count, right? So we made this like into a meme. And you know the what's his name? The Drake meme where it's like happy and then nah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had like that, like Northumberland large animal vets. Anything else basically with Kaz's face on it.
Oh, brilliant.
It cost a bit of extra mash for his clients that were just out with Northumberland, but yeah, it was good fun. But it always causes a battle, so it certainly wasn't the intention. But no, it's been class to talk. We've been sitting here for talking for the best part of an hour. I've really enjoyed it. It's flown by. I don't know if you've watched a podcast before, or certainly one of these podcasts before, but there is 2 questions we finish every single podcast with. The first one being, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the second one being, and you're perfect for this question, if you had any tips for folk coming into industry, what would they be?
Oh, so 5 years' time, I'd like to be farming full time. Still owning a gardening business, but someone employed running it for me, right, and me farming full time, with a tenancy potentially. I don't think I'll ever be buying a farm, but that's where I'd like to be. And getting into the industry, one word: networking. Get out there, talk to people, get your name out there, join farming clubs, farm young farmers. Use social media, show people what you get up to. Just talk is my biggest tip. Be passionate. Don't be scared to ask questions. I'm forever ringing people and asking probably stupid questions that they think of, but for me, they're fairly crucial. But yeah, get out there, talk to people, and be passionate.
No such thing as a stupid question, first off.
I've told my apprentices that so many times when I was chefing. No such thing as a stupid question.
Exactly, and I don't know if you know this or not, Karl, how long you've been aware of myself, but I'm an agricultural lecturer. I've filmed 60 of these episodes, and every episode I'm like, shit, never thought of that. Or, all right, okay. And some of them I just find myself point blank, I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go down that road. So yeah, it's we're only young. You're never going to know everything. You're never going to know everything.
And you're born knowing nothing, is what I also used to tell them.
What was that?
You're born knowing nothing. So that's what I always used to tell them as well.
Exactly. So you've came a long way. So brilliant. In 5 years, always love to see when folks say something similar to what they're doing, just more. Do you think by then you will be full time? Certainly at the rate you're going, it would be absolutely possible.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. If I'm not, I'll be certainly gone wrong.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Is Lottie involved as well?
No, so she's not in farming. I've dragged her into it, but she's listening and smiling at me at the minute. But no, she's not from farming. But I think you enjoy it, don't you?
Yeah, most of the time.
Unless it's raining.
Haymaking wasn't so good.
Yeah, she didn't enjoy haymaking as much as she enjoyed lambing. So we've got to work on her on the tractor side of it.
It's always good to have more hands around at lambing time. Always good.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like Lottie's pretty keen to do that by the sounds of things. So at least you get help in this insanely quick created Karl. So kudos to you for that. 4 years ago, you were cooking fancy food, which is also a fantastic thing in itself. And now 4 years on, you're knocking having 100 breeding ewes. So massive respect on that. Fair play to you. And yeah, very well deserved.
Really
I love to see folk doing that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you deserve to hear it. So well done. For those of you listening, I hope you've enjoyed Karl's story. I certainly have. And just for all of you listening, it's Karl. It is not Karl. I have tried. I've done my best. Maybe it was obvious. Maybe it wasn't. This has been episode number 60. Next week, as words as numbers work, will be number 61. But I do not have a clue who's coming on yet because I haven't arranged it. But I hope you've enjoyed, Karl. I hope you've enjoyed being on as well.
Oh, absolutely loved it. It's been great fun. Thank you.
Good, mate. Good. Well, I'm glad. And we'll certainly keep in touch and we shall speak to you later on.
Brilliant. Cheers. Speak soon.
See you next week.
Well, that's it. Another R2Kast finished. Another agricultural mind opened up. And I would just like to say that getting these guests on board, it does take time, and it always has done. But I've now went weekly, and with that comes even more time required. And I would just like to finally thank once more the Scottish Farmer for sponsoring the show and making that much more possible. Please be sure to get in touch if you've any ideas of people you'd like to see on the podcast, or maybe ideas you have for me presenting better, because I definitely do require that. See you in the next one.